My name is Amra Čamo. I'm a head of CineLink, and I'm happy to be moderating this talk for today. As a moderator, my task is also to make a kind of introduction, and I will be reading it. So, I have wrote it in order not to make any political incorrect mistakes. For more than 30 years, more or less, our region lives in transition, which implies the promise of a move, a transition to something else, promised better tomorrow. But again, more or less, we got stuck in that transition. To paraphrase the copyright of an event I have organized a long, long time ago, we are lost in transition. General feeling, regretfully, is the same, even today. I have never envisaged, at that time, it was 2003, 2004, that this word will remain an essential feeling for the next 20 years or so. What am I talking and why am I talking about transition? It is impossible to talk about political correctness or artistic freedoms without understanding the specific social moments in which the artist who treats that really finds himself. This ongoing transition has in a way prepared us well for the time of the post-truth and fake news, so we actually entered this prolonged crisis well-trained, hate speech, revisionism, rejections of the facts, acceptance of the phrases. All of this has been part of our world since the late 80s. At SFF, we have two programs, Human Rights Day and Dealing with the Past. And this panel is also part of this program. And both programs deal in its own way with artistic interpretation of reality and reaction to the social inequalities. But isn't every artistic process actually some kind of attempt to make society better? Or should it be? When I was working on a project about new identities in Bosnia, also about 20 years ago, my friend, director Timur Makarević, went to the forests and mountains, filming the changes of the season over the period of 8 months, and didn't allow a single human face to appear in the film. Escapism, for sure. An engaged film? Activism? Probably. Today, both because of the pressure of post-truth and fake news, the increased visibility and saturation of retrograde ideologies of the past, we are talking political correctness. But the question is, what is the position of an artist working with the society as a material and not losing what is conditio sine qua non, artistic freedom? Today, I'm talking to artists who have managed to be free in all of these years, and their work of art are quite clear. They do stand as a sign for all of those who ask themselves, question of correctness and question of freedom. So I'm really happy that I can present this wonderful bunch of people, and regretfully we are all online because I would actually love to be with all of you in one room and then share a meal or a drink or something later on, but we will keep that for 2021. And hopefully, I'm happy to present Dana Budisavljević, writer-director from Zagreb, Šejla Kamerić, visual artist from Sarajevo and Berlin, Damjan Kozole, writer and director from Ljubljana, and Srdan Golubović, writer and director from Belgrade. All of these people here, we know each other for quite some time, and this 20 years of transition has been something that we, in a way, have been experiencing together. And while these years have passed, I have been the one experiencing your films. And somehow, when I was making the list of people that I would like to see at this talk, your names popped up. Why? Because I think every single thing that you did in the past years, 20 years, has been, in a way, always touching the subject of political correctness, artistic freedom, and also self-censorship. And, we talked about this at the beginning, who is the open the floor. And because Srdan is at the festival in the film that would be screened in open air, but it was screened on digitally. And that we learned today that it was nominated for EFA. So because he's the lucky one for today, he has this luck as well to start the whole panel. My question is basically, and the same questions go for everybody. When you make your films, in this particular case, when you do The Father, how did your process look like? And in which way you think that you reflect society, and how much you think deliberately about the society that you live in while you're working on your film?
Hello. Yeah, I think that the subject is really great and very important, and it's good to talk about that. And especially through different processes, we all have different processes. I'm always trying with my films to be very close to real life. And my professor on the faculty, professor of script writing, was Srdan Golubović. And he was always telling us that we have to, the best way to find the story for the film is to find the story, some article in the newspapers. And the last two films I made, I was inspired by article from newspapers. Because I always believed that you have to start from real life if you want to make some destiny which is poetical destiny. And in the last film, Otac, Father, I was very much inspired by Yugoslav Black Wave. And you remember, and who doesn't know, it was very strong movement in Yugoslav cinema in all Yugoslav republics. And directors who were talking about everyday life, but provoking a lot. It's connected with political correctness. From Matjaž Klopčić in Slovenia and Bata Čengić in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Živojin Pavlović, Makavejev, Žilnik. They were provoking everyday's life in a different ways. So I always start in Father. I started with real life, with a real hero, real man, and I tried to make new destiny through provocation of the society. And then we come to the subject of political correctness. I think that political correctness is very important for our societies, especially for ours, for Balkan societies, because we live in violent societies, not the same violent. In Serbia, maybe more than in some other countries. And I think that political correctness in everyday life and in political life is very important. But I feel that with art, thing is different. And I think that art has to provoke. And for me, also important thing is that art cannot be a servant of society. Art has to provoke people to think about everyday's life. That's how I started with this film. And it's funny with Father, because my previous film, Circles, it was more politically complicated for Serbia circumstances, because it's a film about facing with the past. But I had worse reactions in Serbia for Father, because I think in a political and social way, Father is talking about real life is something what hurts. If you show the life like it is, it hurts politicians a lot. They were ignoring film totally. For Circles, they came on the premiere, they talked about that, but for this film, they completely were ignoring. Very, very similar thing in one moment happened with Black Wave. So I think that different to everyday's life and social life, I think that art has to provoke, and provoke in a way to push society to process of reconciliation. And I'm thinking about that kind of provocation. It's like when you have something what hurts you on your body, then you have to put a finger on that place, because that's the way how to do something good for the society. I think that artists cannot be servant of the society, but artist has to be, how to say, has to be savest, sorry.
Conscious.
Yeah, of the society. And that's, I'm trying through my process, I'm trying to go from real story, and then to try to find, I'm not sure if I'm successful, to find some poetical destiny, because poetical destiny is the only destiny which is important for us, because I think that art is more than life.
Thank you. Dan, I think it's your time now, and you know it is. I know also your films since the shorts and for a long time, but this time I would like you to talk about your first feature project called Diary of Diana B. And I nailed it this time because I know all the previous titles. Sorry for the others, but you know it is extremely complicated. It is an extremely complicated and complex process that you had on this film, and it is also extremely important for the society that you live in, but also for the it proved to be, as a matter of fact, in a way, film that can heal. I remember being in Pula last summer at the film festival. So can you tell us a bit about finding the subject, all the, and how it worked for you? How do you guided yourself to come to the final result of the film that you eventually had?
Okay, first, hello to everyone. I was just thinking when Srdan was saying that artists have to provoke. And of course it's true, and I agree, but I was thinking that maybe in my case, I'm more into, when I do my films, it's more art that has to heal. I feel about our countries and our societies that they are very wounded. And you also talked about promised better times. That never happened, but that's also with our past country, Yugoslavia. They also promised better times. I also worked as a producer on a documentary series about architecture, socialist modern architecture called Slumbering Concrete. And there we told the stories of these fantastic modern buildings that were much more modern than the society they represented, because Yugoslavia wanted to find the new symbols, the new identity, the third path, not the West, not the East, but something the third. And I think there was many people in that Yugoslavia that believed in this better tomorrow, and a country that was above nationalism and small nationalities. But that collapsed in an awful way. And and we still didn't invent some better world. That one didn't happen, and that was a beautiful idea that didn't succeed. And now we don't have any new program, any new
idea. We don't have any new ideas, as a matter of fact.
We don't have any new ideas. And somehow when I travel and when I talk to people and how I feel the society, I don't feel that these people are mean or bad people, but somehow everyone is so wounded. And then I try to put the finger, as Srdan said, on certain problems and open the space for people to understand, to be able to talk and somehow to heal. And with this last film, the Diary of Diana B, it really happened, as much as film can. But it's for me, it is the biggest present an artist or I can get, this catharsis. And if you were in Pula when the film was had a world premiere, and it's a very special place. It's not such a great festival, but the screening place of the big Roman arena is really special because it can host like 5,000 people. And after this, after the screening was over and the crew was coming to the stage, these 5,000 people stood up with clapping for 8 minutes. And I never ever experienced such a moment as a filmmaker. And it was really so precious. I felt like we did something very, very important and good for the people, because the topic is very hard. That's the topic that is every day in our political life. It's a story of the Second World War. It's about one woman who was saving Serbian kids during this Ustashi regime in Croatia. And it's something something where we can, how to say, it's so stupid the way we communicate about this Second World War. It's used, I realized that it's only used for politics and for daily politics. And actually, it is a huge history that we don't learn anything about it. And we should. Now it's called revisionism because, and it has very negative connotation because you have extreme right wing and very, I don't know better word in English, like stupid people, really saying, trying to say that Ustashi regime was something very good. Ustashas were collaborations of Nazis. And they are shouting Croatian version of Sieg Heil, and Croatia cannot forbid that. We have constantly this people shouting this on public events, and then police comes, and it's so boring and it's so. But on the other hand, we never, in the public discussions, we never learned something new about what was happening. So this film was somehow provocation, but it was recognized as truth because it's a half documentary and half fiction, and we researched it for almost 10 years. Because we found this beautiful forgotten story about this Austrian woman who lived in Zagreb in Second World War and organized the saving of Serbian kids from the Ustashi camps. But as she was Austrian and bourgeois, when the Second World War was over, and the communists and partisans won, for the Communist Party, a hero couldn't be someone of Austrian descent and of bourgeois descent. And they took everything from her, all her databases of the children, they forbid her to work, and she was really erased from the history. So her story wasn't good for any side, and we got almost the same amount of critics from the left and from the right. And then I thought, okay, that's good. Then we are on the right path. But what was beautiful for me that it's, and I saw it on this premiere in Pula, that there is a large, very large group of people, our citizens, who are not stupid and who really want to reconcile, who want peace, who want truth, who want to live in some normal countries. But because this public discourse is so loud and so extreme to black and white and so to say left and right, we completely forget about all these people, not to say good people, but you know, like that they are normal people also. And we think that we live in completely abnormal societies, which is also true, but it is not.
But is there anything normal these days?
Yes, but what I decided, I knew that there will be a big attacks on the film, but we decided that we, after we saw the reaction on Pula and after all this love and energy was somehow put in the air in this screening on the premiere, I thought, okay, we will not waste our energy on bad guys and on the attacks. We will focus on people who cherish this film, who, how to say, we will put the spotlight on the good and not on the bad. I have the feeling that we are all, that our countries and politics and media is like they are living from these scandals and this polarity. And if you decide not to go with it, there is a whole new, quite beautiful world. And this film was rejected by 4 distributors. No one wanted to distribute these films because they thought it's controversial, and it's also black and white and history topic, and no one will want to see it. And then we did a distribution ourselves, and we got to some 35,000 viewers in Croatia and over 65 in the region, 65,000, which is for such a film, wow.
Huge numbers.
Huge numbers, just because we believed that there are people who really want to see it, and that we have to, and that we will not react to all these attacks, and that we have to follow the path of our main character, which is this Diana, who lived in much worse world than we. And if she found the strength to do good, we'll also try to follow this path. Because in her diary, and the film is based on her diary, she spends very little sentences are devoted to Ustashi regime, to bad people, you know, to Hitler or to Pavelić. She's really concentrated on what she can do every day for her task to save the children and to find the people who want to help and her collaborators. So I thought, okay, you see, she focused her energy to people who can help. She was not writing pages about how, oh, it's so bad, oh, it's so bad, oh, these people are so bad, they are doing such a bad things, you know. So I thought if she could do it in a much worse time, there is no excuse that we don't try and don't try to do it. And it turned out very successfully and fulfilling for all the participants of the film and the survivors and us as a filmmakers. I feel really fulfilled, and I got this energy back from the audience.
Thank you. Now we move to Damjan, and we left it open which project are you going to choose, because basically I was talking about two of your films, an intro, so it's going to be a kind of surprise, but both Nightlife and Half Sister in a certain way are dealing with something which is now in a way subject to political correctness or, you know, artistic freedom, being media lynch, and, you know, being a man doing a film about two women. So which one did you pick?
Actually, I don't know yet.
Okay, but we will.
Hello from Ljubljana. My approach to the cinema is very close to Srdan, so I agree that cinema need to provoke and need to deal with the society and need to deal with the spirit of the time which we live. And so when I started with the film, well, it's not intention, you know, just to provoke, but it's intention to talk about the subject which is not usually pleasant for the society. That's why I'm also searching, like Srdan, in a newspaper for such real stories which are close to my thinking about the society. So regarding my two films, the last one was Half Sister, and my previous film was Nightlife, which was inspired with the real event when 3 bull mastiffs torn apart a well-known doctor till death, of course. They found him in a courtyard, completely naked, and lying next to him there was a huge wooden dildo. So you can imagine what the scandal was in Slovenia. And on the top of that, the doctor was doctor of many politicians, ministers of the government, many pop stars. So there was so many speculations about what's happened, and I decided to do film about something completely different, about the fear of media, what will happen a night before when this news will come out. But it was a problem. It was a huge problem even with the police. Slovenia used to be considered as probably the most normal part of former Yugoslavia, the island of normality, or maybe the less craziest part of former Yugoslavia. But, well, in fact, I mean, we are dealing with the same problems regarding the censorship, which is always matter of financing, not censorship like you can't do this film. Just, you know, you just don't get the money for the project. So yeah. So it was a problem, and the long story with this film, and as others, we had huge problems in Slovenia. No outside film was very successful all around the world, but in Slovenia was under attack, not just by the critics, but also in political newspapers. So in a way, I was surprised that cinema still could be so powerful, that story could challenge such anger and so many important people who are trying to stop your project. I mean, I'm sure that we don't live in a time where we could pretend that everything is okay. So that's our duty to fight and to shoot that kind of films like Dana, Srdan, and Šejla as well.
But I have one question more for you, because you avoided all, you know, everything that was interesting in the media. You decided to avoid it while you were making Nightlife. You know, it is not a scandalous thing. You are more interested in the human side of the story than the thing that makes a scandal. So was it your feeling that you followed, or, you know, trying to answer the question, I don't want to do this, I don't want another public shaming or whatever?
Yeah, but you know, the question was if this doctor was having sex with these dogs, which is so bizarre story, and I really didn't want to know. You know, that's the answer. So for me, was all around, because there was 6 months of media pressure every day and speculations what's happened. So I didn't care about that. And probably for the politicians, the biggest surprise was that I didn't deal with the scandals. So for me, the story was more interesting as an inner fear about what will happen, how media will torn apart wife of the doctor. So I'm always dealing with the small, intimate stories. So I'm not really guy for the spectacle and such a kind of stories. But this one was the Nightlife was probably the project with biggest attack in Slovenia regarding the pressure and censorship.
Thank you. And now we are going to Šejla, which is kind of small, my small action into this film panel. I invited my friend and a colleague and collaborator and somebody that I know so well. And we did films together. But she is here more as a visual artist, because I think very often we all end up in this kind of, you know, island of the film world. And, you know, we don't communicate enough, especially with visual arts. And I think that we can learn a lot, you know, in how we deal with different things from each other. And it's a different process. And it would be extremely interesting to hear from Šejla. We discussed about one particular work, but it would be extremely interesting to hear, you know, it is not a news story, but it is a story again. How did you find it? And how do you find it? And how the process worked? Because it's different, and art is a process in a way that you do visual art. So Šejla, please.
Hi, Amra, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak in this panel on such an important subject. I think it's, as you said, like we all closed in our small bubbles. If we accept that or not, it's a different question, but we are living in our small bubbles. And to talk about political correctness, I believe it's very important to look outside of this bubble and to understand what is the politic that we agree on. Knowing all the panelists and knowing you, Amra, I know that we share the same political views. And most likely the audience who will see our panel is sharing pretty much the same political views. But how to be politically correct and provocative as an artist and a filmmaker, and live in unpolitically correct time, in a challenging time of the crisis that we live in now, or how to be politically correct and provocative and talk about something which is unpolitically correct. And for me, that is very important right now, in the moment that we share right now. I will also like to say, or to quote Adorno with this famous sentence, "Wrong life cannot be rightly lived," and that is the moment that we are now sharing, that we are now facing. So, as an artist, how can we accept the ways we are used to produce art, produce films, and in the same time understand that the system around us is broken, and that we as individuals need to be louder, more provocative, to speak out about subjects that are so important to speak about, and in the same time get the resources, get the audience, go outside and do what we feel our responsibility is. You asked me about the process, and one thing that came to my mind was the work which I'm still developing, but which I started to work on in autumn 2019, which already sounds like a distant history because so many things changed. And the project, this work is entitled "The Party's Over." And in the circumstances that we are facing right now, this title—
Party is really over.
Really, yeah. But it is a different context. In a way, these titles now sound as a propaganda of some movement which we belong, and in which we say that the life that we lived cannot be lived as we know it, and we have to change something so the better time will come. I'm also one thing which was interesting for me when you proposed the subject for the panel was the idea of the censorship. And I thought how actually luckily I don't know that feeling. I don't know what does it really mean when the censorship is imposed, and mostly because I operate in this in-between arts and different media's environment, in which I can resource from the different art funds or self-finance my projects, or they are funded by very, very liberal film or art funds. So I was never in a position that certain politics imposed on me censorship. But as an artist, I thought about the censorship in a way that how our mind constantly function. So every thought that we have is not always verbalized. We don't go out and make every idea or every artistic idea that we have. And in a way, that is the first censorship that that artists and all of us are doing, is a self-censorship. But again, you know, in these circumstances, these difficult circumstances that we are facing now, which will, just as a reminder, which will get even which will go from worse to even worse, to the complete catastrophe, because that's how the politics is now leading us. How do we, in these circumstances, find the voice to approach the audience which share different views? How do we impose political correctness, which is for us correctness? How do we become a corrective to someone who doesn't want to be corrected or who has their own
I think
view?
that's brilliantly.
And that is my challenge, personal challenge as an artist, and I believe that's where this responsibility comes along. It is about, you know, like, do we go deeper in our bubble, or we use this core of the bubble to gather energy and to go out and to speak louder about the subject that matter, and impose the ideas which the whole society should benefit from, which we as a humans, on the scientific basis can agree on.
Yes, but there is a one question in a pool of questions that we are getting now, and it is in a way connected what we are taking. It goes, and the question goes for everybody. It comes from Berina Bukva, and I'm sorry, it just escaped. There are many questions. It's not just one. Where do we draw the line between the truth and what that we want to tell, show, and the political correctness? What about the beliefs and emotional backgrounds of the others? It is very connected what you have been saying, Šejla, and also very connected to the question of the silent majority, because we are constantly preaching and talking to the islands that we have created, you know, and we want our art to go further than that. We want our art to aim further than that. So how do you find your position in there when you're making your film? Do you try to make it communicate, and how you do that?
That's why now I mentioned the science. We all have a different point of views, and that's something that we have to agree on. So each of us see things differently, and each of us have different beliefs, and that's also fine. But what we share, we can share the time, and we can share the space, and that is a scientific fact. So I think, you know, first of all, like during my artistic practice and my personal history, coming out of the war in Bosnia, dealing with my own personal trauma, blah, 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 you know, you go through the process of healing, being angry, being provocative, doing different things. But, you know, after 23 years now as an artist, I have to say that, you know, it's more and more interesting for me to connect with the scientific facts, with exposing something which doesn't have a contra, because the contra doesn't have an evidence to it. So it's about, you know, of course, you know, as an artist, we are not obliged to tell the truth, but we are obliged as an artist not to preach lies, and not to undermine the science. And again, because the pandemic is just one layer of the catastrophe that we are now facing, like we are already beyond the point of return in the terms of the environment and eco disaster and the climate change. We need really to look at what we are doing in that prisma of responsibility, to not to deny the science, and in that way maybe help at least those who are open to be educated, to follow the truth.
Anybody else?
Yes, I like how Šejla speaks. I could listen to her for the rest of the panel. But what we experience, I mean, what I experienced with the film is, you know, if there is so many people, I mean, maybe there's not so many, but they are very loud and present in Croatia who really worship the Ustashi regime and they think that's something fantastic. Of course, for me and for science, for history science, it's complete nonsense. So I thought, okay, it's like that someone thinks that the earth is flat and there is nothing I can do because it's not rational. For some reason, they want to believe that the earth is flat, and no film or nothing I can do to change their mind. But I'm going to search for the people who know that the earth is round, but maybe disagree on some smaller, you know, if it's completely round or it's a bit different here and there, and then we can have discussion. For what I noticed, what happened in Croatian media, and probably maybe it's all over the world, that for having they need to have two sides, but they forgot. They invite whoever to be the second side, just to have the scandal. And to have two different opinions, but sometimes there is no two sides, or you know, or for some things there are five sides, and it's so they're producing this loudness, which is completely how to say. That's nothing. That's really nothing. It's just like artificially produced two opinions, which are not actually opinions, and my English is not so good. I really observed it closely when we had a very, very rude rušenje Havca, kako ćeš to nazvati, like the attack, yeah, the attack on our film center, which is the main body for the films in Croatia, and it was run by charismatic and intellectual person, Hrvoje Hribar, who maybe had his bad sides, but he was really an expert in his field. And the attack was coming from the right-wing parties, and but the leaders of these attacks in the media was one medical nurse in retreat, and some historian, and some other people with no biographies. So it was so obvious that it's coming from the politics, but it was so normal for the media to have on the one side Hrvoje Hribar, who spent all his life in films, and on the other side the opinion of the nurse, who never saw any Croatian film or doesn't know anything about the film. So what are these two opinions? You know, it's like nothing. But it created all the fuss, and they made this pressure, and at the end he had to leave, because it's the politics who was behind it, and they wanted to. So it's I somehow with the film and with what happened with the film, because we had really severe attacks, like. 3 weeks ago, we got the permission from the Ministry of Education in Croatia that the film, The Diary of Diana B, can enter in the schools program. And this provoked huge reactions from the church and from the right-wing, not only parties, but right-wing public persons, and we got like organized attacks to our Facebook page and internet, and it's really very very hard to stand, but we still didn't want to react on that, because you see it's just organized, that they were inviting people, write them rubbish to them, lower them the recommendations, do negative numbers in IMDb or whatever, you know. But still, I don't want to give them until my life is threatened, I will not give them my energy. I will still go and search for the people who know that the earth is round, but need more information, want to discuss. You know, we have to go and search for our for silent minority, and not to spend all. I think it's a trap. It's a media trap. It's something that is constructed in the modern world. And we don't have to.
I really think that, you know, even if somebody thinks the earth is flat, we can give that flatness a bit of spin at least. Started a kind of a small spin and then continue that direction, because that's the only thing that matters, that you spin it, and then, you know, eventually it becomes round. And there is one quote that I prepared, and those of you who know me well, will know where that comes from. But also, you know, there is one question among our listeners which is very well connected to the same quote. Nick Cave recently wrote, like 3 days ago, political correctness has grown to become an unhappiness religion in the world. It once honorable attempt to reimagine our society in a more equitable way that now embodies all the worst aspects of that religion has to offer, and none of the beauty, moral certainty, and self-righteousness shown even on the capacity of redemption. And the question that comes from Neža Kokol is that, related also to the previous question, can political correctness become restrictive when misused, and how you deal with that? And I would say that this is for the guys in a way. Srdan, Damjan, this seems like a question for you, not because it's Nick Cave, but it seems like a question for you.
Maybe I'd like to go back to Šejla's statement that about the truth in art. Yeah, I agree completely. But we live in societies. I mentioned before that Slovenia was considered as a part of normalities, but it's not true. I mean, it's crazy as all these countries on the Balkan area. So all these societies are divided on two parts, and both parts are completely crazy, and nobody cares about the truth. So in fact, we live in societies where the truth is not important. So maybe that's why it's much more important that in the films and in the art we deal with the truth, or something we believe that
exactly
it is a true. Yeah. So because we live in such a poisoned society that, I mean, if somebody told me 10 years ago that we will live in that kind of countries, I would say you are completely crazy. But nowadays, you know, everything is possible. Everything is, I mean, in not only here, I mean, in United States, Trump legalized all the craziness in all crazy people in the world. So everything is legal nowadays. So we live in such a terrible times. That's the truth. Yep. But what was the question about?
I think that could just Srdan.
Okay, Srdan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my answer is political correctness is restrictive, and we have to fight against political correctness. But first, we have to fight against violent societies and against everything bad what's going on in our countries. That's the first thing, and we have to fight against politicians, and that's the main thing. But I agree that political correctness is restrictive. I think that the main question is what Šejla asked: how to break the bubble, and how to make new audience, and how to make a dialogue with the people who think different. I think it's not possible in the moment. I think that our societies are very divided, and I had experienced probably the same like Dana had when we had premiere of Circles. There were many people who were attacking film, who hated film, and they didn't see the film because people don't want provocation in 21st century. It's strange. Comparing with the 70s, when people really were trying to have provocation to discuss about things. People today just want to have a proof for their attitude. And that's something what is for me diagnosis of today, not only in our countries, I think everywhere. And what we can do in the moment, I think that we have to provoke more, and we have to be brave more, especially when we talk about our societies. And I think that that's the way to start with the dialogue, and not just to have two sides completely polarized.
If I may, Amra, just to follow up the Srdan, I will go back to Theodor Adorno as a philosopher who very much studied the capitalism and the consumerism. So he predicted actually what is going on right now. He predicted that the working class will be mesmerized with entertainment media, and in that way blinded by the politics and by those ruling in position. And that, so I believe that we need to take that as also as many other great minds and philosophers and thinkers before us, and understand that we need exactly to fight that. Because we are on the side of the media or entertainment, because the art and film was lean into the business, how again we need to, how we cherish our freedom and understand when we are being manipulated to entertain, but also, you know, to isolate ourselves into our Bible, as I said, you know, to free ourselves from this pollution of the media and spins and the storms and the fake news and everything that we are bombarded from, and find the energy to function from that closed scientific environment, artistic environment, to go outside in the world and bring something new, bring a knowledge, because that's what people need. So in a way, you know, I'm considered as a politically engaged artist, and someone who works is you know, very much a social commentary, blah blah blah. But you know, but parallel to that, I always fantasize that I'm a abstract painter. So, but I cannot be abstract painter now. It's the worst moment.
But even if you are, you will be again.
Yes, but I'm using this this as a funny or ironic comparison to the position in which I cannot just live in oblivion or be as would say, like, ignorance is a bliss, be in this ignorance and just do my own stuff and have this creative fulfillment about what I do, without seeing the problems that we are facing outside. So again, you know, like, in a way, we need to put aside our own selfish artistic needs and wishes, and think more about the ways how we redesign, rethink the media, how we rethink our own artworks, project, films, way how we communicate, to educate, to reach more audience, to preserve integrity of our own political correctness that we believe in.
I just wanted to add something, because I mean, that's my experience. Maybe it will sound banal, but we should also elect better politicians.
It goes without saying.
Yeah.
But we are not good in that, you know.
Yeah,
you know,
we are not good
globally. So,
and we are not electing them. The majority is electing them. So how do we help others? Because, sorry, Dana, to interrupt you. Really,
no problem.
So rude. You know,
I just throw the bomb.
We are we are in a position of a great privilege. We are artists, we live from what we love to do, and we are educated. So first of all, we have to accept that privilege and to take that as a great responsibility to help others get education that they lack. Because not everybody is raised in a good family where the parents would read the story and educate kids. Parents infiltrate their own opinions, even if they are bad, you know, like, you know, not all parents are good, you know, like you have bad parents, you have parents who molest their kids or just physically assault them, especially in our societies. So, you know, we have to, as an artist, as a privileged people, we have to take certain things in our hand and be better educators and share our knowledge. And that's how we maybe, hopefully, can reach those who still are open to be educated, and that they can help us elect better politicians, which also need to be better educated, etc. So it goes in a circle. But
I completely agree. I completely agree. We are privileged, and I completely agree with that. One of our tasks and missions should be to share the knowledge and try to heal and try to help them understand what is hardly understandable. I'm completely with it. I'm just saying that the art also depends very much on politics, and because it's so often publicly funded and. So it's not that we are disconnected from it, and we had a very brief 1 year with a really almost Nazi minister of culture who was really saying, "Oh, these are Serbian last names; they cannot make films," you know. So in that atmosphere, when you have this kind of politicians, like that's not so much you can do. If you have normal, so to say, politicians, then this space is much more
but
open.
You know,
and I'm thinking, like, if I had Vučić, you know, who knows what would happen with the film? It's not so. I think I was lucky that the moment was somehow ripe. How to say, like, ready for to accept something like this. But we are not disconnected from the world, and I'm very sometimes angry on my colleagues, artists who are just doing something for their world. You know, it should. I completely agree with Šejla. We should go more. We should reach out more, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you, because Vučić is the president in my country.
Yeah.
The only good thing is that we are not much interested to politicians. They gave us our small kindergarten and, okay, let's play, because who is watching your films?
Yeah, but that's our power, right?
Yeah, but on the other hand, I think there is something very interesting what you said, and we have to break our own bubble, and we can't refuse that 90% of our country is watching realities, and we have to see how to bring them our work and how to start dialogue with them. You know, if you want to make a revolution, you have to think wide, and that's the most important thing.
I have to paraphrase one of the questions in order to kind of draw you, because we have to close. So, you know, there is one question from Selma Bakšić, and I will skip part of the question and end up with one of her sentences. It's, how can art be a weapon of political liberation if art itself isn't free? You know, so, you know, I made this because I have a feeling that you managed to liberate yourself at least a little bit through a process of making your works. Exactly. And, you know, being a part of that process, you know, being a friend, being just an observer, being a viewer, being a participant, doesn't really matter which art you are participating at, or, you know, what am I as a consumer called? I think that you liberated me a bit. You couldn't liberate me. You know, it's my job to liberate myself. But, you know, for all of your films and for all of you have done, and how much you probably suffered throughout of those processes, you know, I really need to thank you all for this small dream of freedom that exists in every single thing that you do. And I think with you, we can all survive much more easily in a way. So thank you guys. Thank you for being with me, and hope to see you next year in flesh in Sarajevo. So we go to this post CineLink talk lunch that happens actually on the spot. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.